first. So I started thinking about the word love. The theme is love is, and I started thinking about that. Okay, well, what is love? And I started looking it up and how different cultures express it and perceive it and define it. And I realized that this isn't just love that we're talking about. This is the love of God.
Yes.
Because God's love is the only love that is true, pure, forever, unconditional. It isn't circumstantial, and it'll last forever. You see, despite whatever happens in your life, whatever you may do, God's love will never fade away. It is something that you are going to take with you all the days of your life. No matter what you do, good nor bad, there's one thing that I know for sure, and that is that Jesus will always love you.
Yes.
Even when we fail to love ourselves, or we fail to show our love to others, even when we fail to show Jesus our love for him, his love never fails. His love is the only love that will always remain the same no matter what. There is no other love like this. Wouldn't it be something to be able to love like God? To be able to let go of all of our shame, our guilt, condemnation, low self-esteem, bitterness, pride, anger, fear. What if we could just let all of that go and love like Jesus? What if I told you that it's possible? What if I told you that I am a witness? You see, the story of the woman at the well is a story where, so Jesus, I'm just going to, real quick, Jesus was sitting by the well, he was tired, and a Samaritan woman came to draw water. And Jesus asked her for a drink, and she says, why are you asking me for a drink? You guys don't talk to us. And he says, well, if you knew who I was, you'd be asking me for a drink, and I'd give you what you really need. So she asks him for this water, and he tells her, well, go get your husband and come back. And she says, well, I don't have a husband. He says, I know. We've had 5. The one you have right now isn't yours. And she was shocked and said, surely you're a prophet. Well, he goes on to tell her that he's the Messiah. And so there's more to the story. John chapter 4 is longer than that, but that's the part that I want to focus on. That part. Because the story of the woman at the well isn't just a story. It's real. I'm sure that there are women out here who have stories of feeling like the woman at the well themselves. You're women who have been through so many different situations, circumstances, hardships to get to where you are today. You have fought to get to where you are today, but you didn't do it alone. You were not alone. You're women who have received this living water that I'm talking about, which is God's true, unconditional love, and your lives changed. Well, much like the woman at the well, Jesus' love has completely changed my life too. Like the woman at the well, I was living a life full of sin before I met Christ. Growing up in my family wasn't easy for me. Life was full of violence, abuse, drugs, abandonment, and chaos. I've seen a lot of things growing up, a lot of things that I wish I could unsee or forget. I've been through things that I wish I could bury deep down on the inside of me and never think of again. Both my mother and my father were drug dealers, and so that was the only lifestyle I ever knew. I've seen my parents fight constantly with each other and with others. I've seen my mom beat someone up so bad that she was covered in blood from head to toe when I was only 8 or 9. I've seen my dad fight people constantly and even beat women. I've seen my dad be beaten and left for dead. My whole life, I knew I never wanted to become an alcoholic, nor marry one, because my dad was one and he scared me. I remember telling my dad as a young girl that he taught me all of the things to stay away from when looking for a partner. My dad had stabbed his own brother and almost killed him when I was 11. His brother wasn't the only person he had ever stabbed either. When I was 7, my mom went to prison and my dad went to jail. I was left with my stepfather, who was a truck driver, so he was always gone. So my aunt and my uncle, whom we barely knew, came to stay with us and take care of me and my little brother. During this time, I had to visit my mom in a prison, and I threw fits every time I had to leave. I just wanted my mom to come home. I was scared, I was young, and I was vulnerable. I was so young, I remember holding on to the prison bars for dear life as they tried to escort me out of the prison. I would scream how I just wanted my mom. Please let me stay with my mom, I would say. During this time, my grandmother tried to take advantage of my mom due to her circumstances. She tried to take me from my mother, and so I went to live with them. My mom fought this and she won. So my aunt then took me. I went to stay with my aunt, and during this time, I was molested by her neighbor. During the occurrences, I didn't say anything even though I knew it was wrong. Not to him or anybody else. I waited for my mom to come home so I could tell her. It was quite a while later that I had finally shared the news. When she came home, things were never the same. She wasn't the same. We were distant. Even though we lived in the same house, it was like she was never there. She didn't come to things I did outside of being in the home, and she took care of me in that manner. She made sure I had food and clothes, which I appreciate. And I'm not trying to bash my mom, please do not think that. I love my mom, and I appreciate all that she's done for me. I know now that it wasn't easy for her at that time. I didn't understand very much, but now that I'm older, I understand that she herself didn't know what she was doing. She was only doing what she was taught. The drinking and the violence continued on both sides of my family, and the hopes of me growing up to be any different didn't look possible at all. One would wonder if I would ever made it out of that lifestyle. As I became an adult, my life became just like my parents' was. I began to sell and use drugs. I didn't have a stable job. I had children whom I didn't even know how to mother because I was never taught how. And like the woman at the well, I had been in multiple relationships just looking for true love. During my adult years, I battled depression and anxiety so bad to the point that I tried not once but a few times to commit suicide. That wasn't the Lord's will for me, though. He had greater things in store for me. I just didn't know it yet.
That's right, amen.
Bear with me. During my search for love, I'd been physically, mentally, and emotionally abused to the point I didn't even know who I was anymore. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has gone through these types of situations. I'm sure most of you have your own stories. Battles that you've gone through to get to where you are today. Finally, after my third and beautiful baby boy, I was done. I was tired. And I didn't want to go on anymore. I was throwing in the towel. But God said, oh, no, you're not. And I received a phone call from a friend of mine inviting me to a revival. And I said, what is that? She said, just come. Please come. God has something for you. I know it. You need to come. So she came to get me that night, and we had our obstacles to get here, but we made it. You see, it was a Friday night, and typically on a Friday night at this point in my life, I was doing what I had done my whole life, and that was getting high. So I didn't want to spend my Friday nights in a church service. That was the last thing I would have ever wanted to do at that point. Nevertheless, it wasn't about my plans. It was about God's. So that very night, I walked into the church. And as a matter of fact, let me share this with you really quick. This church is the very church where it all began. Amen. This church. Amen. It was a Friday night in this church. Elder Frank Simmons was preaching that night. And when I walked through those doors, I sat in the third row from the back where Mother Paula is sitting now. And a song was playing, and the song was, I Almost Let Go. Glory be to God. I almost let go. Depression held me down, my problems had me bound, but God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go. That night, Elder Frank was preaching a message, and in his message, it was a powerful message. And in his message, one thing that he had said was, from this moment on, don't ever turn your back away from God. Yes. And one of the girls with me that night turned and looked at me and she said, Erica, don't ever turn your back away from God. Yes. And I'll tell you what, saints, from that moment on, yes, I never turned my back away from God. Yes. I didn't just come Friday night. I came Saturday and Sunday. And I've been coming to church ever since. I've been worshiping God. My kids are raised in church now. My youngest child has never seen any of the things that my older two had seen. And I can't thank God enough. Yes. 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 You see, that night, it wasn't night, it was noon, that Jesus met the woman at the well. He waited for her at the well, despite how tired he was, to give her a fulfilling of a need that she had that was greater than water. Yes. She had a need, and he wanted to give it to her. Saints, this is my meeting at the well place. Yes. He waited for me in this church that night to give me something more than water. Yes. He gave me something that would last forever. Yes. And I'll tell you, it has completely changed my life. And it is an honor and a privilege to stand here before all of you to declare that this is where it all began. And I never thought in a million years I'd be standing in the same church that saved my life, speaking to the people of God about the love of God. But yet, here I am. God has a way of working it all out for our good. Amen. Whew. Hallelujah. 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 Saints, God's love is powerful. It's life-changing. And that night when I walked into this church, my life was in pieces. My heart was in pieces. And it was as if God had come down from heaven himself, wrapped his arms around me so tight, and put all of those broken pieces back together again. And he has been the glue holding it together ever since. Let me tell you something, saints. After all I've been through, I am now able to stand here before you a changed person. I went back to school and I gained a successful career. I haven't sold nor touched drugs in years. I've been blessed with a great man of God who has helped lead not only myself, but my children in this walk with God. And I can honestly say that I thoroughly enjoy life now. Jesus' love is the most powerful love you will ever encounter. It is so powerful that he will personally come and get us out of the mess that we're in, just to get us out and to him. His love is unconditional and uncircumstantial. He doesn't care about what we've been in before this. He didn't care that she had 5 husbands and was sleeping with someone that wasn't hers. Just like he doesn't care what we've done before coming to him. He loves us, saints. And I'm able to stand here as a proclamation and true testament of what God's love can do for you in your life. I am a true living proclamation of the love of God. If it had not been for Jesus that day, I don't know where I would be today. And I thank the Lord daily for saving my life, for loving me unconditionally, just like the woman at the well's life completely changed that day, so has mine. I pray that this has given somebody out there hope. I pray that it has touched someone's heart this evening. And I pray that it helps you see that things won't always be the same. God's love is unconditional. Repeat that after me. God's love is unconditional. God's love is unconditional. God's love is unconditional. It's never circumstantial, saints. It's always unconditional. Thank you for being patient with me